How many countries exist in the world today? It's an interesting and nuanced question, but one I believe that has a definitive answer. In this video, we will look at geopolitical organizations as well as sporting organizations to provide an overall answer to the question. Welcome to Glen Duerr, where I had a 4-season semi-professional soccer career before moving on to become a professor of political science and international studies. And in this channel, we examine the intersection of sports, politics, and international relations. Let's dig into some brief background information that will help us to answer the question of how many countries exist in the world today. My pool table is a lot like the international relations arena. Each ball represents a country, and they often bounce off against one another. They can go to war. Sometimes countries even go into the pocket and disappear. That's essentially what Russia's trying to do to Ukraine today. They also cooperate, work together. They may group like the European Union. There are also much smaller countries, microstates, some of which are members of the UN, some of which are not. There are also, however, bigger countries. Size matters. And so a large country like this might represent China. The United States might be represented here. And so as we answer the question of countries in the world, this gives us some useful background information as to how it exists. Let's directly answer the question using a geopolitical organization, the United Nations. The best answer to the question of how many countries exist in the world today is 193. There are 193 member states of the United Nations, most of which recognize each other. However, there are 2 observer organizations, observer states within the UN, the state of Palestine and Vatican City, which would bring the total to 195. However, some countries also recognize other entities. I'm in the United States, for example, and the US recognizes Kosovo as well as Taiwan to some degree. That brings us up to 197 countries. The best answer, I'd say, is 193, but 197 provides some nuance. Let's directly However, we can also look at sporting organizations to give us a slightly different answer to the question. The International Olympic Committee, or the IOC, for example, has 206 member associations. Another sporting organization, FIFA, the world governing body of soccer, has 211 member associations, and FIBA, the same for basketball, has 212. The only difference between the two is that Monaco is added. However, there is a nuance beyond the 212. There are 4 additional organizations that are dependencies of either the United States, New Zealand, and Denmark. That is Micronesia, Palau, Niue, or Greenland, that could be added to the 212 to comprise 216. So let's recap the answer to the question of how many countries exist in the world today. Formally, under the UN, 193 member states is the best answer, but it can be expanded to 197. In sporting organizations, we can take the number 206, but grow it to anywhere up to 216 in terms of the number of countries in the world that exist today in 2025. One final nuance is, what do you do with entities that have been declared independent, like Abkhazia and South Ossetia, by Russia from the Republic of Georgia? For most people, they must not include these organizations in the count of the number of countries that exist in the world today, but it is something that is discussed, and some countries also take that position. But for me, the cap is 216 countries in the world today. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope you found the information useful, and have a great day.